that one of the three greats among Bhishma, then Dronacharya, and Karn, these three were potential uh, candidates who had to be eliminated before, because they would not be, it would be beyond capability of Arjun to defeat them or to get rid of them. So the gods conspired. Indra went and removed got rid of the Kavach and Kundal from Karn, and that made him vulnerable. Although Indra did give him one, like they called a dart or weapon, which would certainly kill whoever it was intended for. But uh, otherwise, with the Kavach, he would have been absolutely invincible. You know, that Kavach, like I mentioned, that it's a metaphor, and that Kavach stands for innocence. अगर कोई innocent है, so that person is never guilty. If he's never guilty, he cannot be punished. He cannot be taken to task. So that was the thing about Karn. He was always innocent as a child. But there's a difference between child's innocence and a sage innocence, which we had discussed last time. Anyway, all war preparations were now ready, and these two armies were about to meet, or they had met at Kurukshetra. The war had not started. Meanwhile, at Hastinapur, what had happened was that Dhritarashtra was quite anxious what was happening, but he was blind; he could not see, and so meanwhile, to his good fortune or whatever, Sage Vyas came to him and said that the war at Kurukshetra between your son and sons of Pandu is going to start, and you could have prevented this war, but you did not do. So now I will give you divine sight by which you will be able to see this war, and then you can realize what kind of havoc you have created by not stopping the war. Then immediately Dhritarashtra said, "No, no, sage, please don't give me that sight. Give that sight to my charioteer, Sanjay, and uh, let him narrate to me all that is happening on the battlefield, because I will not be able to see my sons being slain." So the sage said, "Okay, so be it." And the Sanjay who was there immediately got divine eyes. Like, he became clairvoyant and clairaudient, so that even from a great distance he could see what was happening, and he could hear everything that transpired there between the people. So now he said, uh, then Sanjay said, then Dritash, now that he knew that this fellow, this charioteer Sanjay has got divine eyes, he asked him, Sanjay, gathered at Kurukshetra, Dharmashetra, Kurukshetra, what are my son and sons of Pandu doing? Now here इसमें दो वर्ड आते हैं, धर्मक्षेत्र and Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra is general, as Swami ने explain किया था. This represents the human body, the human body mind, by which all the actions are performed. And this is the Kurukshetra, where karma is performed. On the other hand, the same body mind, if it is used for divine purposes or for good purposes, then the same thing, and you wage a war against all your demonic tendencies and kill them, then that becomes the Dharmashetra. Dharmashetra भी आपके अंदर ही है, कुरुक्षेत्र भी आपके अंदर भी है. Of course, some people say that Kurukshetra stands for mind and Dharmashetra stands for the heart. And so, what Dhritarashtra wanted to know, what is it that what is happening there, what is going on in their mind, and what is going on in their heart. All that information he wanted from Sanjay, and Sanjay, with this divine power, he could narrate to them what is happening. So he said, then Sanjay addressing Dhritarashtra said that gathered at this thing, your son. And ये before I move further, story तो ठीक है, but इसमें धर्म एक आता है. अभी तक हम लोग ने धर्म डिस्कस नहीं किया है, and धर्म is a very important element from our culture point of view, for our religion, for our lifestyle, etc. point of view. and we'll discuss it. आगे भी आएगा. It will come again a couple of times more. So just like I said, who are you? Who am I? That's a very important question. Similarly, dharma is an important question. What is dharma? Dharma, अगर आप देखेंगे, at many places just they put that duty, but it's not duty. Dharma is not duty. Kartavya is duty. Dharma is something else. And if it was mere duty, then the best example to derail this kind of association is the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. All those sepoys who were there, the soldiers who were there, they were merely carrying out the orders of their boss, their General Dyer. Now, and who are the people who were killed? There were only women, a lot of several women with children as young as 2 years old or even younger, babies in arms, and some men who were sitting there peacefully in that garden, in that bath. But he just massacred them. And they were, so dharma, if it is a duty, if it was, then that act would be a dharmic act, but it could not be a dharmic act. It was the most, you know, condemnable act, and certainly not dharmic at all. So what is dharmic? What is dharma? Dharma is uh, has its, in fact, all Sanskrit words they are formed out of certain roots. तो धर्म का जो है वो root है धर्म. Dharma means to uphold or to sustain. So what is it that you are trying to sustain or to uphold? You are trying to uphold nature. Nature में there is a certain balance, so, and it is very finely balanced. Now, the entire nature, the entire universe is finely balanced. Yeah, for this I'll just go a little, take a little diversion, not diversion, explanation के लिए तो थोड़ा सा off जा रहे हैं पहले. There's something like called good and bad. And good and bad is applicable to individuals. If I eat good fruits, fresh fruits, banana or papaya or apples or oranges or whatever, that's good for me. If I eat some stale, piece of food, fish or meat or koi bhi cheez, so it's not good for me. The good and bad is applicable to the at the individual level. Then there's what they call the right and wrong. Now, right and wrong is from the society level. Right and wrong is society level. Suppose it is good for me to have a lot of money, but I don't have money, so I go and pick somebody's pocket there. So it is good for me, but it's not good for society. So society does not tolerate this thing, and as far as society is concerned, it's wrong. So societal laws, जो हैं, they prevail over individuals, and the society can be, of course, the whole country as a whole, or it can be a little less than that also. But we'll assume that the entire country is covered in this society. Then above this society, you've got the international laws. International laws they supersede all the national laws also. So as we grow, as this keeps on growing and growing, they become more and more important. Till we come to the whole entire nature. Nature में आता है कि now nature we feel कि we have to uphold or we have to see that it is we have to sustain it. Now these are very delicately balanced. What is the meaning of delicately balanced? Scientists have found until 1928, the world was quite comfortable. All the scientists, physicists, they thought that they'd known everything. But in early 1905 or something, uh, Einstein, he proposed his theory of special relativity. And in 1915, the general theory of relativity, which completely brought about a turmoil in the entire scientific world. Along with that, there was this Niels Bohr, who proposed this quantum theory that everything has to move in quanta. And completely what we thought we knew everything was, completely disturbed. But the equation that came out from these people was such that we could now describe the condition of the whole universe. The universe was expanding. One of the things was that the universe was expanding, it was not static. So expanding universe जो हो रही है, तो उसमें collapse क्यों नहीं कर जाती है? Why does it keep on expanding? All these kind of questions were there. And suddenly they found, not suddenly, they found that there are certain equations which are there and certain constants. These constants, if they are tweaked a little bit this way or that way, either the entire universe will blow up or it will just collapse into itself. But nothing of that sort was happening. It was all very well preserved. So what was the reason? What is it that it was not disturbing it? It was not being disturbed because of these fine constants, and these constants not only at the largest level, but these things, this balance is there even at the smaller level. For example, uh, for forest, if you keep on cutting large areas of forest, then the entire ecology is disturbed. Or if you keep on, just say global warming chal raha hai. So global warming also is a disturbance. We are bringing about a disturbance or disbalance in the entire world. So these are things, and dharm जो है वो कहता है इस तरह के you cannot bring about any imbalance. Or you cannot disturb the imbalance. Or you cannot bring about imbalance in the nature. And this is the meaning of dharma. So, but dharma, you would have heard, is the sun has a Surya ka dharma, it is the dharma of the sun to come out every morning and light up the sky and give warmth, and then every evening to go to bed or whatever. And similarly, the river, it is the dharma of the river to flow and moisten and provide life to all the plants or whatever. Now, this kind of thing, when dharma is तरह से define किया जाता है, so you start wondering whether it is in fact what is dharma, because these are the nature or properties of the inanimate beings or inanimate objects like the sun or the water. But dharma apnya, of course, we in our thing we don't consider them inanimate. We do because they're all made out. They all have got very what they call a tiny fraction of purush in them. So we don't consider them inanimate. They're also as animate as all of us. Only thing is we have got five senses, they've got one sense. That's all the difference. So इसको disturb dharma को, how do you uphold? Upholding dharma is what is required. How do you uphold dharma? It is better to understand is how do you disturb dharma? You disturb dharma by violence. I'll repeat again. Dharma is disturbed by violence, by imposing your will. Suppose the river is flowing and you build a dam against it. You are deliberately stopping the river from flowing. That is violence. Or you knock off large tracts of forest and disturb the entire ecology. That is adharma. That's how we disturb the balance in nature. So nature का जो balance disturb करता है, that is called dharma. Now dharma, if you see, I mentioned good and bad at individual level, right and wrong at the society level, then international level, and finally dharma. Dharma encompasses everything. So dharma is the most important. If you are able to follow dharma, then you will be able to, if you are able to maintain dharma, then you are de facto, you'll be able to maintain everything else at national level or society level, at individual levels and everything. Dharma, like I mentioned, was, uh, it happens because of, adharma happens because of violence. So whenever violence is considered bad, which is the same thing as dharma, when violence is considered bad, violence is hinsa, and हिंसा का जो वो है एक रूट है हिन, एंड धर्म बैड का रूट है दू. So Hindu, that is how that word Hindu has come, or that is, and that anybody who considers hinsa or violence is bad is Hindu, and this is related to dharma. इसका जो हिंदू का वर्ड का जो ओरिजिन है वो धर्म से आया है, because of dharma you cannot disturb the balance, and you disturb the balance by violence. So anyone who does not disturb violence or does not disturb the balance is a Hindu. That is the उसके धर्म का क्या कहते हैं, yeah, that's the significance of dharma and how dharma is linked. So because we don't impose our violence on anything or anybody, that's why we are able to tolerate. all kinds of diverse views, diverse ideologies, diverse way of lifestyle. And that's why in India, you'll find jitni diversity yahan hai, we don't have anywhere else in the world. And that primarily stems from the word Hindu, one who considers violence is bad. One who considers violence is bad. Yeah, we discussed this Hindu earlier also. One who considers violence is bad will not impose his own will upon anybody else, not just other human beings, but even upon trees, even upon water, even upon uh, everything, animals, etc. Although in practice these days, itna kharab ho gaya hai ki you do find we have pets. Now they are the poor thing. We have, we bring them from the wild and make them pets. And then you have got we large scale burning of stubble, as we have seen. It creates a considerable global warming in jata hai. And the factories you have set up where you burn fossil fuels. All these are a dharmic act. But anybody who follows dharma follows is a Hindu because he considers violence is bad. So this is the relationship between Hindu and dharma, and how the word Hindu. What is the origin of the word Hindu? It is not that it has come from that river Sindhu. Remarkable thing is that people of any other country, for example, Japanese, we call them Japanese because those people themselves call them Japanese. People living in Germany, we call them Germans. Why? Because people living there call themselves German or somewhere or whatever. People living in Iran, this is the present day Iran, earlier Persia, they call themselves Persian, so we also call them Persian. Where Hindu के लिए जब पूछो तो क्या है? They say Hindu. The people of Persians, when they came to India, they stopped at the river Indus or river Sindhu that time. It was called Sindhu. And they said, okay, this is people living on the other side of the Sindhu river are Hindu. It's a very foolish thing. It is Hindu is a Sanskrit word, and if a Persians were to give us our name, then they would have chosen a Persian word. But in any case, whether they chose a Persian word or a Arabic word or a Greek word is not important. What is important is our identity, because we identify ourselves with Hindu. That is why everybody else calls us Hindu. ये चीज we have to remember, and इसका जो origin है, it emanates from dharma, right? Now coming to the story, the Dhritarashtra wants to know what is happening. He's blind. Remember, he's blind and he can't see. So it's necessary, but he's yearning to see. He wants to know. He's very anxious what is happening between him and his son, and between his son and sons of Pandu, his nephews. So he asked Sanjay, gathered at Dharmashetra and Kurukshetra, what is happening between my son and sons of Pandu? So Sanjay tells him that assembled there, uh, Duryodhan, your son, is speaking to his uh, uh, guru, Dronacharya, and is telling him, I'll just read out Spanish. They said, Duryodhan, having surveyed the Pandav ranks, approached his guru, Dronacharya, and spoke thus. So foremost among the Brahmins, observe Yudhishthira's army. Now he's introducing the army of the opponents, first. He says, observe the Yudhishthira's army. His army, which is led by Drishtadyumna, the son of your friend Drupad, which has great warriors such as Yudhishthira, Virat, Drupad, all capable as Bhima and Arjun. Drishtakeshu, Chikitena, Purojit, Jackie, all matchless besides the valiant Maya and the mighty Abmanyu and the five sons of Draupadi, who are all great warriors and characters in their own right. Now, the, all the warriors on the opposite side to his group. And of course, Duryodhana is very, very confident. So he had no army, no, he thought nothing of praising those. In fact, all the big names he said they're there on that side. And he was telling Dronacharya. And then he said, uh, but he's full of confidence. Thereafter, he introduces his own commanders on his own side. He said, our army is led by uh, Bhishma, mighty Bhishma, and it is great warriors like yourself, Karn, Ashwathama, and one or two other names he took there. And he was so confident that he would win that he didn't bother to narrate to list down all the uh, great warriors on his side. इसमें ego जो होता है, ego will always look at the other and then it will try to compare. Are they better than me? Or am I worse off than they are? And if they are better, then we'll be jealous or envious. If they are worse, if they are not as good as in our comparison, then we'll pity them. So these kind of emotions are there. Now, in this present case, he is very confident. So he boldly keeps on narrating all the virtues or all the strong points of his opponent. And he is quite sure that his army will be able to take care of them. I'm not going to explain the various metaphors which are there. So the people will have to go through it. The book, I request them to go through the book. Then Bhishma is our is the commander in chief. And Bhishma said, then he told all his commanders, that look, all of you are great warriors, and each one of you is by himself, individually, capable of winning the war and destroying the entire Pandav army by yourself. Nevertheless, we have got the greatest of the stalwarts, and he is Bhishma. As long as Bhishma is there, uh, we can never lose. So I will enjoin upon all of you, he told all his other commanders, to protect Bhishma from all sides. This was a very strange kind of request. And the general, normally one would expect, not normally, it is invariably expected that the general is going to protect everybody else. How is a poor small sepoy or warrior or knight, or how is he going to protect his general? Or for that matter, the other commander. The other commanders are there to protect those who are under his command. But here he is asking all these commanders to protect Bhishma. Bhishma, as been mentioned, is a metaphor. Metaphor में delusion है. He stands for delusion. As long as delusion is alive, nothing can, the war by the divine traits cannot be won by them. The demonic traits only will always win the war. तो उसको delusion को alive करने के लिए you have to protect him, or like you said, from all sides. So delusion is not to be removed. Once delusion is removed, then of course the vision जो है वो आपका clear हो जाएगा, and you'll very quickly be able to see God, divinity. So delusion मत जाने दो. So in fact, the metaphor means that don't allow delusion to, that Duryodhan or the demonic trait would not allow delusion to be removed. And of course, he also had that boon of death at will. So in any case, वो जाने वाला तो नहीं है, but he wanted to emphasize the point that Bhishma Pitama must be protected from all sides. Like I mentioned, this is a very strange kind of situation where the lesser commanders are being asked to protect their commander in chief, which normally should have been the other way around. But when you look at it as a metaphor, then it's very clear why he's asking that. Incidentally, Bhishma, who knew who Karna was, he stipulated that he will not have Karna in his army uh, because he is a self-willed. So he may not act as I instruct him. I will therefore fight only if Does not join in the army. Now, the Duryodhana did not have any option because he wanted, and if you recall, Karna ke saath, when Karna had gone to his chamber at night and told him that I will always be by your side. That time, his Duryodhana had, calmed him down and told him, yes, I know that. And I was planning to make you the commander in chief. Then it was, in fact, Karna who said that no, it will be better to have Bhishma as the commander in chief because nobody will be able to defeat him, nobody will be able to raise their hands against him, and victory will be ours certainly. So for that having that strategy having gone into his head, when Bhishma told Duryodhana that he will not have Karna fighting in his army, and he has to be kept out of the this thing of the war. Otherwise, I will not take command of the army. So Duryodhana had no option, and therefore Karna was kept out. And with that introduction हो गया. उसके बाद once the introduction was over, then Bhishma uh, blew his conch, and it created his conch which was there, shank tha. It created a very loud noise, very very roar kind of. It was a very loud roar, and Duryodhan, when he heard that roar, that shank being blown, his heart was very glad. He was very very happy. Of course, that was signal for all the others in his side, in Bhishma's army, Duryodhana's army, to blow their conches. And all of them just started blowing their conch, kettle drum, or whatever they got, all kind of. And an amount of noise was tumultuous. Now, इनकी जो delusion and all these, they can only create uh, fear. So the noise and when fear is what what the demonic traits understand and appreciate. Because it is through fear that the demonic traits try to capture you or destroy you. So here, when he blew his conch, it is only signaling that he is able to he can instill fear into the hearts of people. Now, when this was also the blowing of the conch was actually the challenging them. It was a challenge to the other army. They're okay, come on now, I'm ready to fight. Come and fight with me. The moment he blew his conch and the all others joined, he kept on blowing for some time. Thereafter, Krishna, he took out his conch and blew his conch, which was Panchajanya. Along with, then after that, it was Duryodhan, after that it was Bhim, then Drishtadyum, Bhim, then the Yudhishthir, Arjun, and then the two brothers, what was their name? Nakul and Sahadev. All five of them blew their conch. इनके all these conches जो हैं इसके सबके नाम दिया हुआ है. They have been specifically given some name, and they are all metaphors. What they represent. Krishna's conch, for example, Shankh जो है, but that is supposed to be Panchjanya, one who is able to give life through the five elements. So he is merely telling them that I am the Almighty, and I give life, and I am the creator of these five elements. So that's how each of these uh, each of these great warriors on the Pandav side, they declare what they have to offer. In case of Kuru side, Bhishma and all Bhishma, Duryodhana, Dronacharya and all that they have to offer was fear. Whereas here they were not offering fear. And incidentally, if you notice, they respond when the Bhishma had blown his conch and all others from Kaurav side uh, uh, followed immediately. On the Pandav side, it was not the first challenge was not accepted by Drishtadyumna, who was the commander in chief, or for example, or for Bhim or Arjun. Rather, the challenge was accepted by Krishna. Now, Krishna, although he said he will not be fighting any active, he will not take any active war. Nevertheless, he blew that conch, telling everybody that although he is not very active, he is nevertheless very much present there, and he is going to guide uh, the Pandav side. So that was the significance of his blowing the conch. the conch in the war, in which really he had said that he will not be actively participating. So, okay. भीम का founder था क्या सुघोष sorry all the others मतलब क्या है what is the significance of these various conches is given in the book. I will request all of you to kindly read if you are they're all metaphors क्या क्या बताते हैं now then Arjun said the conches having been blown Arjun said okay I despondency of Arjun abhi aa raha hai now I think